I finally got my head right. I move in silence, you won't catch me in them headlights. And they love to say they love you if they need some. If they see you moving solid and your bread's right. I finally got my head right. I move in silence, you won't catch me in them headlights. And they love to say they love you if they need some. If they see you moving solid and your bread's right. Pick up the county, put it down for the town.
Welcome to the Head Right podcast, man. This is something that we kind of have been putting together day by day, minute by minute, to tell you the truth. It's something that, you know, we wanted to come together. Like I said in the intro, we wanted to come together and we wanted to create a space. We wanted to create a solution. We wanted to create something to get the people active, because that's the big thing. We need to be active, and we need to remain active, especially in the time right now where everybody is really like pressing this, and that's something really cool to see. That's something that I haven't seen yet in my life. Nick, we've come from the same area, bro.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've been in the same area our whole lives, and I want you to touch on it a little bit. I don't think that, you know, race in general has been as spotlighted as it is currently, as popular as it is literally today.
No, I mean, I really couldn't agree more. I mean, I think, I know we talked before we got on here about, you know, taking advantage, and you said it in your Instagram post of like taking advantage of this time right now of like, you know, and I forgot I heard about before. I think I listened to it on Skip and Shannon Sharp said something like, you know, this, yeah, you know what I mean? And he was like, this is the first time that everyone kind of joined in on one thing, and like you know, there wasn't a lot of you know, wait till something else comes out, let's see what the facts are. It was all like, no, we're all going in, we're all doing this, and that's definitely something that I felt differently, and especially for me, like, you know, being white and wanting to get involved and trying to understand and trying to feel the different things that are going on. I mean, obviously I only see it from the outside looking in. I'm not involved in it, but just really trying to understand that. And I think that, like you said, just taking advantage of this time, especially we're kind of coming out of a pandemic where we're all on video calls, we're all FaceTiming each other. This is a perfect time to really, you know what I mean? Like connect with people. And I'm excited to really, you know, work with you on this and talk to as many people as we can.
Yeah, you said good words, bro. Understanding was a big key word. I want this to be a place where people can come and learn and understand and really feel it. Because like you said, you're never going to, as a white male, you're never going to fully
absolutely
feel the hurt and the pain that, you know, we have experienced for hundreds of years.
Absolutely.
If we create a space where people can come and understand things that they might have thought was right but was actually wrong, and a place where we can, I don't want to say educate. I'm not a teacher. I don't want to say just put people on.
Exactly. And like and that's how I feel too. Like, you know, obviously I'm a huge history buff. You know, I love history, and specifically I love the Black history of it, especially, you know, dating back to the Civil War. You know, Civil War is my favorite time period just because of what it kind of led us to, and what it, you know, the start of something, I guess. And for me, it's like the only thing I can do is be educated on it. The only thing I can do is educate myself. And also, like, and this is kind of my challenge to fellow white people, my white constituents, of like, educate yourselves. You know what I mean? Like, go back and two things that I would love to tell people about to go educate themselves big are, number one, Google Emmett Till. If you do not know who Emmett Till is as a white person, you're not even trying to understand. That's just ignorance. You know what I mean? 100%. And that one will open your eyes up. And then number two, Google the brown-eyed, blue-eyed experiment that a teacher did in third grade in Iowa in the 80s. What she did was she took all so what it is so all the brown-eyed kids, which are the majority, the most people in the world have brown eyes, and the blue-eyed kids, who are the minority in their classroom. It was a classroom of all white kids, white teacher. So what she did was she made all the blue-eyed kids, which in this case were African Americans in America, were, you know, they weren't allowed to go to the playground. They had to sit in the back of the room. They weren't allowed to do all these things. And by the end, the blue-eyed kids were like, this isn't fair. Like, what? And then, you know, she goes on and does it with adults later on. I mean, it's such a powerful experiment that that she did, and and
This was
it's
a teacher?
the teacher in Iowa, where I mean, you're talking a white state
Yeah,
majority. You know what I mean? I mean, it's so those are two things that just as white people we can just do. That's just the start. That's just the tip of the iceberg to really educate yourselves.
yeah.
I mean,
And that's
it's
awesome too. I think that plays such a big role in what I'm trying to talk about today, especially as with teachers. We
yeah,
have a few teachers joining us today later on from like Greensboro Salem School area, but I think teachers in general have such a big role and such a big opportunity to make an impact. That example right there, I've never even heard of that before, but just something like that can get the ball rolling for kids at a young age to for them to realize and put it into their perspective. Oh, that's not right. Like
yeah,
my mom and dad are teaching me something opposite at the house, but this is what's right. This is
yeah.
what it needs to be. So I think teachers have such an awesome
I think that
opportunity.
I mean, speak from a teacher's perspective. I think we have a duty. I think it is our civil duty to
Facts.
to start it. I mean, I was talking to my guidance counselor at the school I work at, and she said, there is no too young to talk about this. You do it. I talked to my fourth graders the other day, and you break it down. And one of the things we did was we talked about bias, and I gave them a scenario. I said, the two kids in my class, I said, okay, do you like pizza or do you like I forget what I said, salad more or something? And they were
Okay.
like, pizza.
I'm a pizza guy
Yeah,
myself.
yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? And so I said, okay, so your favorite pizza place and you're in a salad place is giving away an iPhone. Which place are you going to go to? And they all were like, the pizza place. And I was like, well, why? And they were like, and I was like, because you're biased towards pizza. You favor pizza. So no matter what they're giving away, you're going to go to the pizza place. And I was like, just kind of putting that into perspective. Like, don't, you can't let your biases change your decisions. Like, don't let those kind of biases, they're both giving away an iPhone. Why are you going to the pizza place over the salad restaurant? It just because,
Exactly.
you know what I mean? So it's something simple. And like, I think just starting that conversation at such a young age is important.
Exactly. And something that also wanted this podcast to do is I wanted to focus on the main thing. I wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
consistent. The
Mm-hmm.
main thing right now is we're battling racism, we're battling social injustice, we're battling police brutality.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the time, the narrative gets hijacked. It gets hijacked
Way
and
too much.
it gets spun into something that it's not. Where
Mm-hmm.
like I go on Facebook and I see posts, I see comments of it's way off of the topic.
Way
It's
off
way off
topic.
topic. It's not about disrespecting the flag. It's not about dividing. It's not about looting and rioting. It's
Mm-mm.
not that's not the main focus of
Exactly.
what we need to do. The main reason why Colin Kaepernick got on a knee in 2016, I believe it was because police
Absolutely.
against all races. And that's what I
Absolutely.
think it needs to be. I think it needs to remain consistent with that. And we're going to do our best to stay on task with that.
Rejoin. Yeah, let's just keep rolling here, and then Terry, you can kind of talk about real quick who kind of our first guest is supposed to be. I personally don't know him, but I mean, you filled me in a little bit. But yeah, if you want to talk about who our first guest is going to be.
Yeah, that's my guy, Tavin Davis. We go back a little bit. I was a freshman in college, and he was the all-star running back on senior.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But he was a real cool dude. He kind of took, I don't want to say took me under his wing, but he showed love and showed respect to the younger kids, where a lot of older people. You've been on the football team.
Yeah.
It's not normal for seniors.
Yeah. No. Absolutely.
Show love to the freshmen and stuff, and he's always showed love to me. And we kind of reconnected this past summer at a wedding. And we got to talk, and I found out that he was an officer, and
that's awesome.
From there,
yeah,
caught up from there. But he's a real cool dude. I hope that he hops on here. I don't know if he's a little busy right now. He said he was in Memphis with some people, but if not, then we can just keep moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think too. Like, I know from my perspective of like, I've got uncles that are in law enforcement. And I've tried to talk to them about it, and I think like it's not just a police to person thing. It's bigger than that, and I'm just trying to really figure out. For example, I just watched. I don't know. Did you see the movie Just Mercy yet with Michael B. Jordan?
I need to see that,
bro. You got to watch it.
Michael's my guy.
Michael's my guy. He's the best, and the movie just it lays it out so perfectly. And this was in the late '80s, as to not only where this started, but where it's gone. In the late 80s, there was no, you didn't have to have a reason to get pulled over. You didn't have to have a reason to get arrested. There were no, it was so unfair and unjust that it just blows your mind that people are so blind to that. And that like, just like, you know what I mean? That like, for example, I was telling you the other day, a couple white people that I know that, post on Facebook, and the other day posted about Drew Brees, about his comments with don't, this is about respecting the flag and blah blah blah, and someone posted, he's allowed to say what he wants and believe this and believe that. And I'm like, I literally, I didn't comment it because I hate I don't like engaging of it. Yeah, but I wanted, you know what I mean? I wanted, my comment was going to be, where was that same energy when Colin Kaepernick was doing his thing? Where was that same energy when, what's the difference? Colin Kaepernick was just saying the same thing. It wasn't there. You know what I mean?
It wasn't there. And the Drew Brees thing, that is such an interesting topic, I think, because it shows that all of the time you hear the excuse, I have a black friend.
Mm-hmm.
My boyfriend's black. My kids are black. And people like to use that as an excuse to make them think that they know black rights and they know black rights.
Absolutely.
Just because you're around black people and have black friends does not mean you put in the work to truly educate.
Doesn't mean anything, yeah.
Brees works with black men each and every single day of his life. He has since he was a kid. And you can see how, ignorant he is.
Yeah. Just blinded by it,
that just shows the room for growth in all ages, not just our generation, but especially the older generation.
Absolutely. And it really is too. And I think that, one of my hopes that we get from this is kind of putting out a blueprint for our generation specifically, the 90s kids. Because as a whole, we don't really get involved that much. I mean, yeah, we vote. Maybe. Have I voted in every election since I was 18? Absolutely not. I mean, I voted in 2016, the presidential election, but like that was the first time I voted. And exactly. I was 18 in 2013. So like, and then, in that time frame, there's local elections, and I know we talked about it, and like, I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough to, and I guess that's one of my goals from this, is just learning what to do in the right way and how to do it, and to really affect. Yeah, exactly. One of my hopes that we get from this is kind of putting out a blueprint for our generation specifically, the 90s kids. Because as a whole, we don't really get involved that much. I mean, yeah, we vote. Maybe. Have I voted in every election since I was 18? Absolutely not. I mean, I voted in 2016, the presidential election, but like that was the first time I voted, and exactly. I was 18 in 2013. So like, and then, in that time frame, there's local elections, and I know we talked about it, and like, I don't know enough about it. I don't know enough to, and I guess that's one of my goals from this, is just learning what to do in the right way and how to do it, and to really affect. Yeah, exactly.
This wasn't really on our minds back then.
No. You know what
I mean? And a lot of people, they kind of throw out the notion that, you change. I don't think change is necessarily a bad thing. Evolution is a great thing.
Yeah.
Evolving, great thing. I think the person that I am trying to become right now has evolved into wanting to implement myself in these type of discussions,
absolutely,
in these type of situations. These are things that I didn't shy away from them back then. It wasn't something that I was like, let me get the ball rolling. Let me go out of my way. Let me use my resources to affect change. Let's kind of focus the topic towards school before we kind of get them in here. What I want to talk with them about mainly is kind of their perspective on just social injustice, on racism through all of their years of teaching and things they've seen.
Mm-hmm.
I want to speak with them. I want to touch on maybe ideas or solutions they may have, or maybe some things that they haven't really liked. I want to talk about how, there wasn't one black teacher, one black staff in Greensburg Salem.
Not at all.
I want to know, like, what's that process? Like,
absolutely.
Are teachers applying to these positions? Or are they not? And they might not have the answers for me, but they can have a good perspective on what we're trying to do.
So. Yeah, absolutely. And for me too, like, coming into education, and for who I was back in high school, I bet you if you would ask either of these two teachers if I would be a teacher now, they'd probably say absolutely not. I mean, just right. and so really just kind of stepping into it and wondering, what are, like I told you yesterday, 14% of educators in America are African American. That's it, 14%, and like that's not right. What's going on there? You know what I mean? Like that's not okay. And like you said, I really would love to know, like, what are the processes behind it? And then the education side of it. What are they teaching about it? How are they helping? So yeah, I'm excited.
Gentlemen,
what's going on?
How's everybody doing?
Good, real good.
Hanging in there.
Yeah, I'm doing well. Can't complain.
Appreciate you guys hopping on, Mr. Lehman, Mr. Lenzi, my coaches, my guys. What's going on?
Just following the news,
Yeah. So much going on out there right now. It's hard to kind of, for me personally, it's hard to kind of wrap myself in that, because like if I did, like I would just walk around mad all day. You know what I mean? And I'm trying to protect, my head throughout this craziness that's been going on throughout the weeks, but at the same time, we got to be informed. And I think that this podcast could be like a good space for people to come to and kind of just talk and kind of just inform themselves and just be involved in any way possible. So once again, I appreciate you both hopping on with us today.
No problem.
I agree with what you're saying, and I appreciate the fact that you even considered me for it. Hope I might have something to add.
Oh, for sure, Mr. Lenzi. You've taught me a lot. You've taught me a lot.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, so I mean, no, go ahead, Terry.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, Terry and I have kind of got together, and then since I have kind of moved, I don't live in Greensburg anymore, and then I'm talking with Mr. Lehman and Mr. Lenzi. I actually ended up becoming a teacher myself, which is hard to believe, I know, but I definitely have changed a lot since the last 7 or 8 years. But kind of our goal with this is kind of talk about the tough issues, kind of discuss where can we go as a young generation as to how to navigate through this, how to really apply ourselves to make change and to kind of connect with one another. So our hope is just to talk to people, kind of get their perspective on different topics, and then kind of create a blueprint of where do we go from here. What are the next steps to take it in a better direction? Kind of move the needle, I guess, is the best way to say it.
For sure. So how you guys been this week? What are you thinking right now about everything that's going on?
Mr. Lenzi, you want to go first? Do you want me to go?
Sure. Listen, it's hard. It's really hard to try to keep your pulse on what's going on, yet at the same time, I think it's natural to have a very wide range of emotions with all of it right now. I am so proud to see this. I'm so proud to see other students, former students, who are getting involved. And at the same time, you take that pride, and I don't want to minimize that, but I'm seeing some other stuff that just, man, it's tough right now. And so I'm trying to, I think, kind of limit my social media usage and doses, and I'm really trying to question where I'm getting my news from to make sure that it's reliable. And I'm trying to find stuff from multiple sources rather than just one. And I'm just trying to listen, I think, a lot as well, and trying to hear people and what they have to say. And I think that one of the biggest things that we can do is to try to validate voices and listen to what people have to say.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
By the way, Nick, I just want to say I can't even begin to express to you how many people, when I first started teaching, said, "Get the heck out of here." So, your comment made me chuckle.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I moved down to I live outside of DC now, so I mean, most of the people I don't know anyone down here, so it's nice little fresh start that I got too. It definitely is. Definitely is.
That's what's up. Now, I know the school has changed a lot since we've been there, but I wanted to speak a little bit on kind of my experience as a black kid in Greensboro-Salem High School. I don't know if my experience will be as mutually shared as a lot of the other people, because I was fortunate enough to be in a position where my family, a lot of people in the town, they kind of knew my family. They kind of knew who I was. So I think that I was given a pass, and people really, how should I word this? People they didn't attach the negatives to me that much. And what I want people to really understand is that when people say like Black Lives Matter, it's not just the black people that speak well. It's not just the black people that go to college. It's not just the black people that don't get in trouble. All Black Lives Matter. If someone has a criminal record and he's been nothing but trouble, I don't think it justifies murder. I really don't. And I don't think it justifies being looked at in a different way. So, I don't have the exact experience that a lot of my friends in Greensburg have had, and I guess I'm fortunate for that. But what I want to ask you two especially is something that I always wondered, and it was something that I didn't know the answers to. I didn't know what the process was like. But I don't think I could remember. I didn't have any black teachers growing up in the school. Tell me, what is that process like? Do you guys know anything about that? Like, when you applied to the school, like, was there a long, extensive interview search? Did they come find you? Like, what is that process like? Because I have no idea. I really don't.
Well, I can start, and I'm sure Mr. Lenzi can come in on this. I saw that your percentage, you said there's 14% African American teachers in this country. Is that true? I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
The first thing to understand is that actually mirrors the population as a whole. African Americans only make up between 12 to 14% of the American population. So if that number is true, which I'm not doubting you guys at all, then it mirrors what it probably should be. So really what we're looking at here then is, why do some schools have more black or African American teachers than others? Okay. Part of it has nothing to do with whether a school is not hiring black teachers for some sort of racist issue. Okay. Sometimes it is simply that there are no applicants. Teaching is not a profession that you hear a lot of African American kids saying that that's what they want to be. And it's a shame, because we do need more. But in order to have more African American teachers, you're going to have to go above and beyond what the percentage of African Americans in this country is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, you take a town like Greensboro, where I believe I read somewhere we're 86% white. And Greensburg has basically two schools, right? We got Greensburg-Salem, and we got Hemphill.
Yeah.
If I'm an African American teacher,
Central Catholic too, even.
Yeah.
True, right. But if I'm an African American teacher, I'm going to make more money teaching at Hemphill.
Yeah.
Than at Greensburg. And you got to understand, that's another thing that has to come into play. Yeah, it's not just like, hey, I graduated from Greensburg, I'm African American, I'm going to teach at Greensburg. You're like everybody else. You're looking to see what maybe the higher paying job is. If you have an opportunity to go to a school that pays more, there's a possibility you're going to take that. Now, I'm not saying everybody. There are people that say, look, I want to teach at the school that has the most African Americans. But, I mean, human beings are human beings. If I have an opportunity to make more money, you're going to see maybe that's where I go. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes what ends up happening is you get a weird situation where you have, like, maybe, and I'm just throwing this out here because I don't know the numbers, but like an Upper St. Clair who is predominantly white but has more African American teachers than what a school like Greensburg-Salem does, because Upper St. Clair pays more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's not just simply, I want to teach other African American students,
Mhm.
although I'm sure that plays a part. But you got to keep in mind, it's also, I'm a professional here. I'm going to try to maximize what it is that I make.
Absolutely.
So, and you also got to remember that teachers as a whole tend to be local. I mean, you look at, Mr. Lenzi graduated from Greensburg-Salem. I graduated from Hempfield. We're both from Greensburg. A lot of times people stay relatively within a certain region. Well, if you don't have a lot of African Americans in that region that are joining the ranks of teachers, that are not choosing that as a profession, then it's going to show in the local schools. And so it isn't simply, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen, but it isn't simply like, well, this school doesn't hire African Americans. There's a possibility where they just don't have applicants.
Yeah.
No one's applying for the job.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, Mr. Lenzi he can jump on that too.
No, I think one of the things that people need to understand right now is the fact that the teaching jobs in our area are shrinking, especially at Greensburg-Salem right now. For instance, we've had, I believe, 3 retirees this year. I believe one of them is being replaced. We're looking at eliminating some positions, doing some checkerboarding, and losing 2 positions. So I guess what I'm kind of getting at here is I don't know that these teaching jobs are as readily available as some people think that they are. And I know, I've heard stories of 200, 300, 400 people applying for one position. All right. And if we were able to find out, let's say that 50 African Americans applied for those positions and they got looked over, all right, then we have a valid issue. All right. I'm not sure. I don't know what those numbers are. But if that's not happening, then I don't know that it's fair to just crush the school district saying they don't have black teachers.
Yeah.
Okay. And listen, I'm not trying to give any school district a pass. That's not what I'm getting at. I'm saying we need to have the facts. It's easy to point fingers and say, hey, listen, I graduated in '89. I had 1 black teacher, Mr. Jackson in junior high. One of my absolute favorite teachers. But and there were more teachers at the time. So I think that there are a lot of factors that go into this, rather than just saying there are no black teachers. Let's figure out why, and then let's figure out, like Mr. Lehman's saying, are they going elsewhere? Are they going to higher paying school districts? Trust me, is the minute you cross over into Allegheny County, you're talking about a significant pay increase.
Yeah.
Okay. And I agree with what he said as well. You have some African Americans who are saying, I want to teach where there are more African American kids, and you have others who are saying, you know what, I can go to Plum. Okay, Plum teachers at the max end of their scale make almost $25,000 more a year than we do at Greensburg-Salem. So those types of decisions, and Mr. Lehman mentioned this, when you start to take a look at the finances behind it, maybe we aren't as a viable job source as what some people want to make us out to be also.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, I want to make sure this is clear. I love working at Greensburg-Salem. Okay, so I don't want to make that sound negative.
Like you're bashing the school.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I love working at Greensburg-Salem. I work with great people, and I work with phenomenal kids. Okay, and I know Mr. Lehman feels the same way as far as that goes. It's really easy to point that finger right now and say Greensburg-Salem has no black teachers. It's their fault. And I'm saying let's get all the
facts, absolutely.
I want to add on to that too. I don't think either of us are saying that we don't need African American teachers.
Absolutely.
I have been saying for years for years that is something that we need as a district. But it's a lot more. There's a lot more involved than what maybe some people on the outside think.
Yeah, I know from real quick, just to kind of talk on that, in the county district that I work in, it's a very diverse group. So it's the population of the students is like, I think 49% African American, 6% Latino or Hispanic, and then the rest make up like Asian, white, and then whoever else is kind of left in that. But then on the latter part of that is the teaching is like 73% white, and then the last 30% or so is African American or Latino or Asian or anything else. So it's interesting, and I think Mr. Lehman, Mr. Lenzi, you're saying about let's be kind of transparent with it. Is are there school districts that look over Black applicants? We don't know that. I think that would be something that can be kind of looked at. Obviously, I work. Yeah, you know what I mean? I mean, just to kind of, and I know it's different at a local school district level. I work in a county, so it's a, much bigger, pool. Like I know, jobs are, easier to come by because, there's 900 schools in the county. So it's just interesting. I think, just particular in the building that I work in, I'd say there's probably out of 70 staff, there's probably a quarter of them are African American. So it's a little bit different. And I think it's interesting just to kind of, talk about those numbers and look at it in that light. So
yeah, quick story that a friend of mine kind of told me about. He went to Greensburg. I'll leave the names off the record, but he was in a class where it was all white class, and the teacher was giving out an assignment for each of the students. I think it was regarding DC, and they wanted to do a project and give a presentation on a prominent person from the DC area or something along those lines. And he was given a black student, a black figure, whereas the rest of the students were given white figures. And he was in middle school at the time, and he kind of felt like divided in that sense, and kind of was upset at the teacher for that. But as he's grown older, he's told me that his perspective has grown, and he feels like the teacher was trying their best to kind of make up for the lack of black teachers, but maybe she kind of went about it a wrong way. I wanted to ask you guys, has that ever crossed your mind? Has there ever been anything that you actively thought, is there anything that I can do personally to make up for the lack thereof? Or is there something that is you just fluctuate everybody together? I don't know if you have an experience like that, but if you do, that's something that I'm kind of interested on. Is there anything you've done to kind of make up for that?
Well, so I think one of the ways that you try to handle something like that, and obviously I don't know the full situation, but I would try to invest in student choice in the project.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's exactly what he said. Yeah. Let
the students choose who it is that they want to take a look at. Okay. Now, again, I don't know everything around that, but I can tell you this. I am very fortunate to teach To Kill a Mockingbird, Fences, two pieces that are controversial, certainly, that have coarse language, that have the N-word used in both, okay? And to think that I'm comfortable with that would be a mistake, all right?
Absolutely.
At the same time, when I have African-American students in those classes, and we're working with those, it can get awkward at times because you want to get the perspective, but at the same time, if Terry, you're in that class and I say, hey, Terry, what do you think about this? That can be taken as, oh, he's just calling on me because I'm the black kid. And that's a hard thing because
that's tough. Yeah, that's tough.
You want a legitimate conversation going, but I don't know that at 15 and 16, we're all always ready for that either.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And those, I truly believe that Harper Lee wanted a conversation and that August Wilson wanted a conversation about those pieces. And, like I said, I'm fortunate to work with those, but they're not easy.
Yeah.
And the way that our school is made up, my classes tend to be a lot more white students than there are African American students, And so it's tough, but we have to have these conversations to hear each other.
Absolutely.
And by the way, that doesn't mean that, Terry, you want to talk about it. Okay. And I understand that also. So
I think you're right in that choice is the answer to that. Now, I know as a history teacher, if I have a list, one of the things I can do as a teacher is I can have a list of historical figures, whatever it is that we're doing, and I can make sure that there are a variety of figures on there. So black, white, men, women, whatever. But then when you throw it out to the kids, you allow them to choose who they want to do if we're researching someone. And that, that it might be a way to solve that. Now, as far as what Mr. Lenzi was saying, I agree with him 100%. And I'll give you an example, too, that doesn't even relate to African Americans. But, I teach international studies. And so oftentimes they'll put the foreign exchange students into my class. Well, as a teacher, I look at that as an opportunity. You have someone from another country. I'm teaching an international studies class. This is going to be great. This student's going to provide perspective. They're going to speak up. And I agree with Mr. Lenzi. Like a lot of times, they're the same age as you guys were in 11th grade. A lot of times they're not ready. They don't want to add to the conversation necessarily. They don't want to be the ones that is singled out because they're from Germany or they're from Indonesia or whatever. So, you see an opportunity there and you think, oh, this is going to be great.
Yeah.
This fits right into what we want to discuss. And they're just not ready to discuss, or, they don't want to because they're shy, or they
young
feel
age.
I don't want to be separated.
Language barrier.
Yeah. I mean,
I tell you, some of those days were awkward. I remember popcorn reading, and then we would sort of plot and make sure that they would popcorn.
Yeah, you did.
We had to, because you know what I mean. It was an awkward situation, but I can't imagine at that age me having the type of conversation that I am right now. I think I would be shy or kind of just feel attacked or separated. So that also plays a key role into it, the age factor in that.
I just had a quick, but before,
real quick.
Go ahead, Mr. Lenzi.
Coming of age, Terry. That's
You're right.
Such a difference right now to have the maturity level. And I think one of the mistakes that we would make is thinking that a 15 or 16 or a 17 or even an 18-year-old should automatically have that maturity to be able to do those things.
Exactly.
I just had a quick question for you two. What do you think can be done, from the educational system side of things, where, we're teaching these things? I mean, I teach fourth grade. In the light of this, in the past week, we had a discussion about, injustice. And I gave Terry a little scenario that we did with pizza and things like that to kind of, play it down to a younger kid's level. But as far as like the educational system, how can we kind of, start this conversation younger, but not putting it in a way where it's, exactly, where it's too much. So maybe by 16, 17, they've already been talking about it, and they, maybe, I know Mr. Lenzi, you said about, the coming of age, and that's 100% correct. But I think that there could be more done to have those conversations at a younger age. I mean, I don't know what kind of curriculum and things like that. I know that plays such a huge role into things, but just kind of your thoughts on how that could change or tailor.
Well, I can just tell you from a history teacher, and this is very simple, but unbelievably hard to do. You can start teaching the Civil War the way it's supposed to be taught.
Yeah.
Okay, you can start teaching the Civil War that it was a war about slavery. It was a war about racism.
We were just talking about that, Nick.
Yeah.
That is something that is basic and something that can be done next fall. Okay, but it won't be, because every state teaches it a different way. Okay, people refuse to believe that something like the Confederate flag is a racist symbol. Okay, it is unbelievably difficult to get people to understand what that war was actually about. And it's so easy to show them just by looking at the documents, just by looking at what people said back then.
Yeah.
But it's a situation where it's a touchy subject. People refuse to do it. We talk about, well, why isn't Black history taught more, or why don't we teach about this person and that person? There is one thing that is taught all the time in every school, and that is the Civil War. Okay, but it is taught in a way that does not do justice
No.
to race.
I read somewhere that, a lot of schools still today in the South when they teach it, will call it the Northern aggression. And like,
No doubt.
And that blows my mind. That just blows my mind.
And I don't want to get off on a tangent on this either, because I know this isn't what this is all about, what we're talking about. But some of these same people that will argue that what Colin Kaepernick did by kneeling is disrespectful to the troops.
Oh, this is exactly what we want to get into.
These are the same people
this is exactly
that will
what
have Confederate flags.
Exactly.
And the Confederacy killed thousands and thousands of U.S. troops.
Upon thousands, yep.
It is a hypocrisy. Okay, and it's something that you could do in the schools, but unfortunately, I don't think it will be done. Now, there's a lot of other things. Don't get me wrong. You can have African American history classes. You can have human rights classes. You can make things like that mandatory, where like a kid, in order to graduate, you have to take this class. Okay, but what I'm looking at right now is there's not a school in the country that doesn't teach the Civil War. Not one school. So it's something there that can be fixed if you just teach it the right
way. Yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Should we get the other guys in on this?
Yeah, no, yeah, go ahead. Real quick, before Terry goes ahead, there's 3 other people that are joining, and just to kind of let you know who they are. Actually, Terry, why don't you talk about Tavin really quick before we let them in?
Yeah, I tried to get him on here to begin the podcast, but he's just a guy that I went to Seton Hill with. He's a state officer now, Black guy. I think he can I want to kind of hear his perspective personally on how he's torn right now, because he has to be going through a lot. You know what I mean? His profession is here, and it's kind of like, it's not a war. We don't want it to be a war, but the world hijacked the narrative, and now it's kind of turned into a war. And I know he has to feel kind of torn, so I hope that we can get him on here. And then we got you guys know Jared Thompson. He's been making waves in the town. Young preacher. I'm real proud of the guy. I'm real proud of him. He's one of my best friends. I feel like he can say some real influential things. And then you got your guy in there.
Yeah. So one of my friends that I met at St. Vincent. I graduated from St. Vincent. Dwayne Hewitt. He's from right outside of Miami, Florida. And I kind of want to get his perspective on things of the life that he lived, growing up, in Florida, and then kind of being dropped in the middle of Latrobe, where, I'm sure you guys know the vast difference in experiences that can entail. So just to kind of talk about that perspective, and then kind of, like I said before, the kind of goal here is just to gain an understanding, and, hope to kind of have a little discussion on, I'm hoping that to continue this about education and continuing about, what can be done. Hi, Terry. Tavin just joined in.
Yeah, I'm just audio only right now because I'm on the move.
That works.
As soon as I stop, I'll throw the video on.
All right, cool. What's going on, bro? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How about you?
Having this conversation, bro. Having this tough conversation. That's all we're trying to do.
Good. Sorry I'm late to the party. I'm on Central Time right now. Although
you're out in Memphis, right?
Yeah. Took a little visit out here to see family.
That's what's up. What I wanted to hear your perspective on mainly, bro, is you kind of spent some years in Westmoreland County. I told people you were the star of the football team, you know what I mean, running back and all that. But you've even implemented yourself even after those years into working in the force, and I commend you for that. Of course, that's a really dope thing. But I wanted to kind of hear your perspective. I know you kind of have to be feeling a little torn right now, just with. I'm sorry, camera's on messed up, but a little torn right now with all that's going on. So I wanted just to let you flow and just to see what you had to say, and see if we can just keep the conversation going.
And I wouldn't use the word torn because I
Okay.
mean, I was born, a black man, so I've seen things, growing up. I've experienced what many, I won't say all, I can't speak for everyone. Many young black men have experienced, um, just growing up in America, man. And I just personally, for me, I think you really just kind of seeing the tale of two cities, and you can't really bridge the gap and understand you know, the ins and outs of both cities unless you've crossed over the proverbial train tracks. And by that, what I mean is I just there are two different experiences out there. And I grew up, my personal experience, I actually got to see both sides of the fence. And from my professional experience, I've got to see both sides of the fence. Work coming up in the inner city, in a city in the South in America, you got to see, racial injustice and prejudice and racism firsthand. I got a front row seat to that, growing up in black skin. And policing, after, going off to college and having different experiences in rural Arkansas, you got to experience a different thing. You got to be around different people. You got to get outside of your backyard. You got to go across the train tracks, if you understand what I'm saying.
Hmm.
And,
Absolutely.
you got to, it really, in my, from my personal experience, it cultured me because I made friends that I never thought I would have made before. I got to meet people, literally experience, blood, sweat, and tears with guys I never would have come in contact with were it not for sports and for college. In the same sense, I got to work on projects in college with people with culture that I would not have come in contact with had I not gone to college. You understand what I'm saying? Had I not left my backyard um, in Memphis, Tennessee. And I got to see people who had a different life experience than me. And fast forward, to post college, professionally, I worked for the Memphis Police Department in Memphis, Tennessee. And a lot of for people who aren't familiar with Memphis, the city is predominantly minority, black, Hispanic, and white people are in essence the minority. So I got to, experience
That's
working and
too.
serving. Oh, go ahead, bro.
No, you're good. Yeah, I was just agreeing with you. Yeah.
Yeah, working and serving a community, minority. If you allow your human prejudice to get a hold of you, all you're arresting for, the majority of the people you're arresting are minorities. So you know, that if you allow that limited perspective to feed into your human prejudice, one could fall into that trap thinking that okay, black people commit more crime. Well, I was blessed with the opportunity to work for a different department where I got to see, in a much different area, demographically, okay, the majority of the people who are around are typically going to be the people that you arrest. Just because, if you reach in a pot in a pond that only has bass in it, maybe only has two trout, the chances of you catching that trout, are much smaller than they are. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Likewise with, just working in law enforcement. So, in light of the recent events, I can say personally, I'm not so much torn between a quote unquote blue or black because I've seen it firsthand. I
So,
stand in solidarity with not only the minority community, but all communities because we swear and protect as law enforcement to protect, everyone, regardless of race, creed, or color, you know. So, and I was just, actually been taking a stroll down memory lane since I've been back in Memphis, and I can recount instances where one instance in particular that wasn't very favorable experience with law enforcement. Actually, two that if I allowed to mold and shape my views, I might not be in the career I'm in today. But then I can remember another experience which was very positive. Where I dealt with because the hot topic is white police officers, where a white police officer treated me with respect. I felt human. And he even showed what's the word I'm looking for? showed a little bit of grace and mercy. Because I had run a red light. I was wrong. I admitted my wrong to him straight up, and he cut me a break. Didn't have to, and if he had cited me, he would have done so rightfully. That wouldn't have made him any better or worse by doing so. But it had an impact. So so no, back to the point. Like, I'm really not torn because that one positive experience, another young man of color might have not had that experience, but I've been wrongfully accused of crimes because I fit a description before, when I've never committed any crime. Maybe a sped here or there, like it's all, but you know what I'm saying. That
Yeah.
a lot of some people don't understand how certain one police interaction can change your entire perspective. And what people don't realize, in my opinion, what some guys are missing the point is, you just want to be treated fairly and equally and with respect. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So
100%.
that's kind of like the rundown of my take. And I don't want to take all your time up, from someone who has perspective, both as a man of color and, having, worn uniform and, still wearing it.
That's exactly why I wanted to bring you on, bro. I figured you would. I'm sorry for saying the word torn. I guess I kind of should have figured that out a little bit better, but I figured it was going to be. Yeah, maybe stressful. Maybe stress might be the word. I don't know.
You can be stressful.
Yeah, maybe stressful. Maybe that's the better word. But yeah, man, you shared a lot of cool points. Now, something that I wanted to ask you specifically, you as a black man wearing that badge, is there anything that you think you personally can do? I know hopping on this podcast before we talked on the phone yesterday and we had ideas. We were just on a wave talking about a lot of different things. But is there anything that you think that you can do, whether it's speaking or whether it's just listening or anything you can implement personally? Is there anything you think you could do to kind of just progress what's going on?
There is a ton that I could do. And there is many things, many times I sit up thinking, how can I get more involved? I'm just actually in the process right now going through the proper channels with the department that I'm with to find ways to reach out. I would love to go, and this is just for me, my desire to go into schools, in underprivileged communities, minority underprivileged communities, and speak life into kids, show them that, I care for you, but I would like, to get a bunch of my colleagues to do the same with, to take that step to show that I am 100 invested in, wanting to see those children in those communities succeed, letting them know that they matter to me, you know what I'm saying, that they have value, that I am an ally to them and not an enemy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Jared, sorry to have you all quiet in the corner, bro.
Yeah, bro, I'm chilling.
You're just over there chilling.
I'm chilling. I'm vibing. That's all.
I wanted you to hop on, bro, because there's a picture going around on Facebook and all the socials of you praying for of this one kid who was passing out sandwiches. I wanted you to kind of go back to that moment. Tell us a little more about it and kind of why you felt the need to stop him right there and pray for this kid. I'll post a picture to the video so everybody watching can see it later on when we drop the podcast. But yeah, take us back to that, Jared. This was I'm talking about the protest last week in town.
Are you talking about on Sunday?
Yeah.
So honestly, I honestly didn't even go to the protest. I prayed about it and asked God like what I should do. And I had people texting me like, "Don't go." Like people were trying to hurt you. I'm like, if I get hurt, I get hurt. And then I got up there. So I was talking to my dad when he came with me. All my coworkers came, and Jimmy Albert was calling, texting, checking on us. And then I kept seeing that this kid coming in and out of the crowd, and I'm thinking he's just a kid that was hungry on his way up there. And then I'm looking, and I was like, Dad, you know who that kid is? He's like, no. I'm sitting there for a sec, and then someone's like, I should stop and talk to this kid. He got his last sandwich out, right? And someone told me in the crowd, like, he went to McDonald's and bought as many chicken sandwiches as he could. And then
Awesome.
in my head, I'm like, who are you as a kid to want to join a protest in Greensburg, where we're a majority of white occupants? Like, to be honest. And then
Yeah.
for some reason, I just wanted to stop and give him some money. Honestly, that was my first choice. Just give the kid some money back. He's probably he was 13. His name's Paul. Don't know his last name though, but
Yeah.
he he's 13. I guess he goes to Greensburg or Hempfield. He's local, and after talking to him, giving him money, and then asking about him, ask his views on it. Something told me I like pray with this kid because at 13 years old, a lot of people see you as a child, and at 13, this kid he grasped it that there's an issue in America between not just race but also police brutality. Like it is white and black, but if you look at it as a whole, we have a problem. And something drew me to pray with this kid. I don't even know what I said to this kid. I gave the kid my number, and then I said, if you ever need something, hit me up. But God led me to talk to that kid for some reason, and it blew up more than I expected. And I told people, like, you don't need to know who I am. I'm just here on an assignment.
That's what I think is dope, bro. Just that genuine like love. That's what we need more of, especially right now. I think that's what I'm trying to do with this podcast is just put out genuine like understanding, genuine love, genuine ideas, genuine just thoughts, and put it out there for people. Just so like it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have your guard up. I mean, it's a very uncomfortable talk. It's a very uncomfortable situation, but you can let your guard down and you can be open to love and you can be open to understanding. And I think what you did the other day, bro, it kind of inspired me and Nick to doing this. So
yeah, honestly, Jared, it really did. I just honestly, I was watching all, Dom was posting videos, McKinley was posting videos, at the protests and leading a speech, and it made me all warm and fuzzy inside, honestly, just because I'm leaving that in there, man. Come on now. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna keep it a beam with y'all. So I can say I lived a couple type of lifestyles. I've been in trouble with the police. I used to run the streets. I used to be a drug dealer. Y'all know that. And then, for me personally, I had to sit down with one of my mentors. And people only look at everything one dimension. If you think about it, they see their viewpoint. No one ever has that mindset of now. Well, I'm learning how to do it. You gotta look at everything as 3D. Open conversation. Like the thing I'm realizing that some people didn't understand, and like I've had friends that like they were saying like this, that, and the other, like why are you protesting this, that, and the other? I'm like, have you looked at it from another man's perspective? And after I said that to them, they're like, honestly, no, I've only been looking at my personal views. So like when we get out the fact of our own self and start looking at other people as what's going on in their community or what's going on in their life, you get a better understanding. That's then when you go to a homeless person, you don't look at them like, oh, get away. You actually be like, all right, do you need any help? Like, can I offer you this? Because I've grown so many connections in my life. I can say, yo, do you need a job? I know somebody that's hiring. You can just start this weekend, and it's worked. And it's like the people don't want to be genuine to somebody else. I realize if you're gonna be blessed somebody else while you're in the meantime, because you don't know what you just sowed into somebody else, and that's a spark, and it's just like a fire. Once you start this thing, you can't be like, oh, we're good from this part. Okay, we got a point across. It's not. It don't just start with us. It's the generation now. Our generation starts it now.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the older generation paved the way ahead. This is the part now where the people in their 20s, or their early 20s and late teens come up. This is the generation because the
step up. It's time for us to step up.
The youth steps up and go ahead.
Go ahead, Tavin.
No, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what you said about
you good.
You're talking about people you come in contact with who don't realize like kind of like what you've gone through or your life perspective. Try to see somebody else's perspective. I had a situation, working in Westmoreland County, because you kind of alluded to that. Like, the 2% of the population is minority, roughly, give or take, maybe 1 or 2%. It's something around 2% of the population is black, to be specific. So uh, even a smaller amount of that population is law enforcement. So I would go into some of the most, like starstruck and confused by people. And I won't say starstruck, but people just confused. Like their brain was, blown away to see, a black man in a, police car. Um, and I was having a conversation with one of my colleagues at the time that, which many times they don't have much experience, any friendships or work relationships, especially in law enforcement with black people. So they all typically want to try to, I'll give them credit, try to, bridge the gap or see what the different experiences. So I'll get a lot of questions about, race and racial justice and, you know, uh, racial discrimination. And, I get those questions a lot. So I had a partner who told me that he didn't believe it exists, and so, he asked what my take was on it. And I'm like, I believe it exists because I've seen it, I felt it, I've experienced it. And that the colleague's standpoint was that, um, well, if, black people create, you know, uh, racism exists because black people make it exist. And I would ride alone many times by myself, but when we run short on vehicles, I would be required to ride with someone. So what's better when you, and I told the guy I've experienced it in this county many times myself. And I was blown away because being from the South, people don't want to associate with you because you're black. They will let you know. And my experience was moving up north. I just assumed since I was above the Mason-Dixon line, which is a whole history lesson in itself, that racism magically did not exist anymore. And I was painstakingly wrong, found out through experience. And that's not to say, for me and Terry's experience when I played ball, I thought Westmoreland, and this is no knock on Westmoreland County, I thought Westmoreland County was the best thing ever. And it further made me believe my own little, hypothesis that, oh man, I come up here above the Mason-Dixon line, people are great. I had, the people, I felt like I met the best people ever. But you have to understand, when you're a police officer, you get called to the worst calls and you get to experience the worst of society. So I got to see the underbelly of Westmoreland County. And I got called out of my name, specifically racial slurs that I won't mention on this podcast. And I was blown away. Well, back to that partner. He said, well, it doesn't exist. I said, man, you ride around with me a couple of days, you'll see. And that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And me and this guy were on a call, and I kid you not, this references police brutality as well, where it was a domestic call, which is the most dangerous type of call for police. And this guy's supposed to, threaten his girlfriend in some way. We get there, and you alternate calls when you're riding with a partner. So it's his turn to take a call. My job is just to make sure we don't get killed. And out of nowhere, this guy flies out of a door, and he's got a huge Bowie knife in his hand, and we're about 3 or 4 feet away from each other, like a Rambo-style knife. For the viewers the listeners who are listening, it's a situation is considered a deadly force situation. So that's drawing my firearm in this situation, and I pray before every shift that I never have to use lethal force. But in this situation, this guy's basically forcing him. He's charging me with a knife. Pull out, my gun. Please drop the weapon. Do it now. At the last second, he got dropped the knife. And the long and short of the story is, I talked to this guy for 30 minutes about how he almost forced my hand. I would have had to, take his life. And we ended up not arresting the guy somehow, which is another story in itself.
It's another topic in itself.
I let it go. Yeah, because it was my partner's incident, and instead of leaving, we couldn't force them to leave because the way the Pennsylvania law is drawn up for that situation. We waited to see if he would come back out of the room because we just wanted the situation to be calm. And the female complainant, her phone was sitting on a coffee table, and it was open, unlocked, and you could see text messages that come in. I opened the door and closed it like we left, but we stood in the living room. And the guy texted the complainant, and the text said, B-word explicitive, it's your fault, that N-word explicitive almost killed me. And I looked at my partner who said it doesn't exist out here.
Wow.
And he watched me kumbaya with this guy for 30 minutes. To the point the guy's crying. I'm telling him, man, like, I don't want to take a life. You know what I'm saying? You almost made it. You know, we're almost hugging. And 30 seconds later, you know, I'm being called the N-word by this guy. So it is stressful, back to your point, Terry, you know, being in this precarious situation. But that guy couldn't see that perspective that I have because he didn't experience it. So it wasn't real to him. It's kind of like with kids, when your parents tell you the stove is hot. If you never put your hand on the stove, or if you never stand close enough to feel the heat, you know what I'm saying? Or if, you know, you never, I can't think of nothing now. I won't talk about getting struck by lightning, but you get what I'm saying?
That's a really good point. You don't really understand it until you experience it, or until at least you listen to
racial injustice, you know, police brutality, you know, racial profiling, discrimination. If you are, you know, a white person who's never experienced that, you know, it's uncomfortable just to say that because, you know, I won't go try to qualify myself by saying who my friends are. But if you haven't experienced that, you know, it becomes less real to you. You know, if you live in rural America and you've never, you know, had someone like a Terry or, you know, Jared or Tavin come up to you, someone that you know is a good person, and tell you that, you know, they experienced, you know, this incident, you know what I'm saying? They got, you know, stopped and frisked, or, you know, someone perceived them as a threat and you know them to be a good person. It's not real to you.
Eric, can I jump in on something that was said about that?
Yeah, hop in.
First of all, two things. One of the things that I say to people that say that racism doesn't exist, and I know that Tavin was talking about that, is I want them to tell me when it stopped. So, for example, do you think it stopped in 1965 when the slaves were freed?
Yeah.
Or did it go beyond that? Okay. Do you think it stopped in 1968 when Martin Luther King Jr. was shot and murdered? You know, at what point did it stop? And I don't mean necessarily like a specific date, but give me an event. Give me a time period where you think that it was the end of racism in this country. Okay? And what you'll find is they can't really do that. Because no matter what they say, there's always some example or incident that happens afterward that pushes the date closer to modern day. And the reason that they can't give you a date is because it didn't stop. It still goes on.
Mm-hmm.
So I challenge people when they say that, well, you know, there's no racism. Well, okay, tell me when it stopped then. When did it stop? When President Obama was elected? Is that your date? And it's impossible for them to do that.
Yeah.
Because there is no date. There is no event.
Absolutely.
And you know, you hear that so often about, well, you know, racism doesn't exist any longer. They'll acknowledge slavery. They'll acknowledge stuff like that, but you know, okay, then tell me, when did it end?
Yeah.
When did it end in this country?
Absolutely. And go ahead, Mr. Lenzi.
I think one of the things, and Jared brought this point up, he listened to this kid. Okay. Yeah. And I think that there's so much to be said about listening and understanding the truth behind that person's story as well. I'm a big music guy, big movie guy, big book guy. All right. When I was growing up, you know, my mom listened to Marvin Gaye, and I grew up hearing that voice. And when I heard him sing "What's Going On" when I was 16, I didn't understand what he was getting at.
Yeah. Okay.
And that goes back to what Coach Lehman just said. You know, that's in the heart of all of that. Okay. When I was a teenager, and I was a pasty white little teenager listening to NWA and Public Enemy because and I'm going to tell you why, because they said the F word. Okay. And I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Is that guy. Okay. And I don't know Compton. I don't understand that. But here's the thing. As I got older, it got to a point where I understood their story that they were talking about. Okay? I understood at this point what Dr. Dre and those Cuban, what they were talking about, and what Chuck D was talking about in his experience. And we have to be willing to listen to that. And I think back, it wasn't that bad in the 80s, is what I think. But guess what? That's when they were talking about those issues. So it was that bad at that point, too. And I think that it goes to that point that Coach Lehman's talking about. It hasn't stopped.
Yeah.
It hasn't stopped at all. Okay? And listen, Janet Jackson singing Rhythm Nation. Tracy Chapman singing, talking about a revolution. You can go back into music and you can go into movies and really take a look at this stuff. We need to listen and we need to trust the voices that are talking to.
Listening and understanding, that's exactly what I hope this podcast can be.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, exactly, Terry. Exactly. I was just going to say that. Yeah.
Exactly what I hope this can be. Now, I think Dwayne is...
Let me real quick. So I brought in my friend Dwayne. Him and I went to St. Vincent together. He's a little older than me, but Dwayne, I just kind of want to get your perspective. You know, being from Florida, and then kind of being dropped into Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Of what kind of was that experience like? And how's that different from being from Florida? And what experiences did you have here? What was kind of your perspective of seeing the things, the teachers? I mean, I know we met a lot of great people at St. Vincent, but in the community, I'm sure was different for you. So just kind of allude on that, kind of what your perspective of Latrobe was and Pennsylvania in general.
Perfect. So, my name is Dwayne. So, like I said, I'm originally from Miami, Florida. So, growing up most of my life, racism, I would say I didn't experience it as much because of just the people that I was always around. I was always around people that looked like me.
Mm-hmm.
So, I didn't get to experience that a lot. Even in my high school, there wasn't a lot of white kids. Mainly it was black and Spanish people that was around my school. So, when I got dropped off in Pennsylvania, I didn't experience it originally until I say my freshman year, right after football camp, and when I started going to the mall. So, I would go ahead and walk into the mall, and then I would get these weird looks, which I always knew like that would happen. For the most part, like I said, I didn't really experience it mostly on campus when I went off campus, and I spent summers in the area where I would experience people look at me a certain way. But also, you have people that understood the plight. So honestly, for me, it's a side reaction when I meet someone and they're white and they're not racist or don't have any racism like tendencies, in my opinion. Like that's like I'm more surprised by that, and then I feel like that's something that's an issue that needs to be fixed as well. Not only on my side, but not only on their side, my side as well. So this is my experience in Westmoreland County for the most part. I didn't experience anything on campus, mainly off campus. I mean, some issues where I think on campus where people would look at, like I was with a group, my group was all from Florida, so we all would hang around and be on each other. I could definitely feel like the different energy in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Once we stepped into the room, like people would stop and stare and look at us. And we felt that initially, but sometimes we just rub it off because we're like, all right, we know what it is. So I mean, like everyone was talking, even sometimes when people would look at me a certain way, I would actually go up to them like, yo, like, you have a problem? And then like I know one person even told us like, yeah, I've never been around like black people in my life, so like I'm not like racist or anything. This is a whole culture shock.
Yeah, just like it's uncomfortable and exactly, and that's why I'm glad that you came on with us, because that's where I know you do your own podcast that you did last night, which I watched, which was great. But I'm glad that you're able to come on and talk about this, because like for me being white, I've grown up here my whole life, or grown up in Greensburg, grown up in Latrobe. Like you just said, a lot of my friends, white friends, can say like, hey, I've never really been around a lot of black people in my life, or I've never really been on teams. I was fortunate enough to be on a lot of sports teams with Terry and Jared, and going to St. Vincent where I met you guys, and like you Joey, AC, and all these boys from Florida. So I just appreciate and really trying to move this conversation to what can we all do? And I know I said, like, what can our generation do as far as getting involved, pushing this needle to, where you don't have to feel those weird feelings when you go into the mall. Like that shouldn't ever have to, you shouldn't have to feel like that. You should want to feel included. You should want to feel like I'm comfortable here. So I guess just really, how the hell do we do this? Like, what's the blueprint to, for all of us to kind of sit down and talk about this young generation, pushing this envelope in the right direction?
I think it's
Yeah.
every conversation like this. I think first and foremost, everyone has to. I think the main problem is people listen to respond and not listen to understand.
Okay.
So,
I like that.
like, when I, this person, a black person tells you their experience, you gotta listen to respond. A lot of people like, oh, there's, like you said, everybody, there's no racism. And then someone gives you their experience. A lot of people, like in my situation, people would reply like, "Oh, were you doing something that?" Like, people don't listen to actually understand the situation and get an understanding. Even when people explain to me why, they may feel uncomfortable when something happens, and there may be a situation where I think people have past experiences where things happen and they don't know how to move forward. So they might have one bad experience with one person. Maybe that person was a bad person. And then you could find other people that are good, and you still have that one bad experience in your mouth, and you don't know this actually with that.
Absolutely.
I would explain that to that one friend, like he was talking about, in essence, a bad experience he had. I said, if I allowed, one bad experience to dictate my interactions with people, I said I wouldn't have my two best friends. If I allow one person because they look a certain way and they use a racial slur against me to limit me from ever interacting with anybody that looked like them, I said my friend circle, my networking circle would be so much smaller. I was like, if you truly live by, the teachings of Martin Luther King, you don't judge a man by the color of his skin. Any man. It doesn't say a white man. It doesn't say a black man. It says if you judge a man not by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character. So, I really try to preach that to people, and that's what I was trying to teach to that coworker in that instance. One bad situation or interaction with a person shouldn't X off an entire race of people or ethnicity people or culture, from you having positive interactions and being open-minded, enough to interact with, that's racism. So,
Absolutely. Appreciate
that's my
that.
take on that one.
I appreciate that.
I think also I'm the old man in the group. A lot of this stuff,
The OG.
a lot of this stuff starts at home. I mean, racism is a learned thing. You are not born with it. Younger generation, you guys are getting at the age where you're going to start having families, you're going to have children, and it has to be taught to them. I mean, that not to be racist. I mean, that's really, it starts in the home. And that's one of the reasons why it's so difficult to convince people, because some people that, I'm speaking from as a teacher, and Mr. Lenzi the same way. We can say all we want in front of class. We're not going to override what the parents say. If they're hearing one thing in school and they're hearing something else at home, they're going with the home.
Yeah.
They're not going to us.
Every time.
So, that's really where it starts. As you guys get older and you start to have families, and that's why this is such a great thing, because you're talking about this, and then hopefully, this stuff can be passed on to the next generation and so on.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, we have to do things sooner than that, but that's something that needs to be done. I mean, the children, they can't be learning this type of racism that we have in this country, and it is learned. There's no doubt that it's learned.
Absolutely. I think like what Dwayne said and what Tavin said about, you know, those experiences that you may have with, whether it's, you know, with a black person or with a white person or with a police officer, whatever the case may be. I think trying to, you know, string those positive experiences together. Like I like what Tavin said about he wants to be able to get into schools. I think that could be something that we push for, of police officers being able to come back and do those 30-minute lessons, and just trying to string those positive experiences together. And like what Dwayne said about, you know, listen to understand. Like, even though, you know, the kids in the class are going with home, well, maybe if I have a police officer, all these positive experiences that continue to happen, that could be kind of that spark that you know, maybe the kid goes home and goes, hey mom, I had Tavin come into my office, you know, into class today, and he comes every week, and, you know, he's a really great guy. You know, why are you telling me that? You know, starting to change that mindset, I think is definitely such an important, you know, stepping stone.
Because then if we're able to do that, then that friend tells his friend,
Mm-hmm.
and his friend tells his friend,
Yep.
and then that's the cycle. Then things, positive change could happen just like that.
Absolutely.
To kind of wrap it up a little bit, I know I kept you guys all here longer than I had promised. We just kind of caught a wave and kept going. So I appreciate everybody being here. To wrap it up, I want to ask each and every one of you, what's something that you want the listeners to kind of walk away with? You can make it as open as you want, as closed as you want, but what's something that you want people to really feel and to really go do after listening to this podcast? We'll start with Lenzi and kind of just go from there.
Well, you know, I've said it a couple times. I really believe it. We've all got stories that that are valid and need to be heard, and we need to trust in those stories, and we need to listen to different voices also, beyond just what we're comfortable with. We need to do that in person, and we need to do that through reading. And
I need to get that book from you. I got to come get that book from you, Mr. Lenzi.
I've been getting a lot of those requests. And listen, I don't have all the answers on the books either, you know, and I've taken a little bit of heat for some books that I had suggested, and I understand that, and I appreciate that, where, you know, some people are coming from with that. I don't have all the answers, guys. I don't. I just know that I've read some things that have worked for me, and I think it's important that we hear other voices. I really believe that.
Absolutely. Can you hear us, Dwayne? You there?
I'm here.
Well, yeah, what's something, going along with what he's saying, what's something you want people to really walk away from after listening to this?
Like I said, listen to understand, man. Don't always, when someone's telling you their experience, or even think about an uncomfortable situation, don't always listen to respond. Because I think communication is the biggest key. You know, if you're telling a story, they're not telling you that because, you know, they just want you to, you know, listen. They're telling you that because they genuinely want you to understand how they're feeling. So you have to do that. You know, anytime someone's telling you a story, you're like, growing up all my life, for some reason, people always thought I was a person they should come to tell things to. Always, you have to listen to understand. I'm the oldest of five. Little siblings come to me and tell me things, and, you know, before I used to like, you just, you know, feel like about things. But like I said, just listen to understand people, and, you know, just because you have an experience doesn't mean someone else is not.
Appreciate that.
Good call. What about Jared? You there, bro?
Yeah, bro. Man.
Yeah. Yeah. Go along with that.
I mean, what I'm working on here in Greensburg, Westmoreland County, I start with myself. You know, what am I doing to make people aware, make the situation understandable for people that don't know? Because if I want to change how things are looked at, I need to understand that I have to be the one doing my own change first for someone to follow. Like, I'm seeing that the way I'm walking towards this situation, other people are following because they see that, okay, I'm practicing when I'm preaching. I'm not just blowing a bunch of smoke. It starts with ourselves first, in our own communities before we can reach out to another. So the one thing I'm telling people is do your research, be aware of the situation, but don't shy from what you stand on just because some of your friends will turn away. People are going to turn away regardless in your life. But the thing is that you need to hold true to what you believe in, but also hold true to what you know is right. You're giving common sense. You know right from wrong.
Absolutely.
Some people that don't get that, you won't just look at what the world going through. You'll just look at what's in your own backyard and say, "Oh, my grass cut nice. My neighbors, I'm not really worried about."
Yeah.
So it's there's so many different things I've learned from watching growing up that I put in perspective now that people don't understand racism is alive and well. One thing I just recently watched was racism never really went away. It's just captured on video now.
Yeah.
And some people just don't see it. They just see it. The thing is now, during this quarantine, people are forced to see this now. And they're feeling uncomfortable. Now they're doing something about it. The way you make people change is make them feel uncomfortable first with the situation. Because then they'll understand it, and then they'll be comfortable with speaking on it.
Yeah.
And that's when you move forward.
Good call.
Appreciate
what about
it.
you, Tavin? What do you want people to walk away from after listening to this?
I mean, love each other. When it comes to matters involving the police, educate yourself. We're granted, civil rights for a reason. You got a First Amendment right, exercise. You have a Fourth Amendment right. Have a complete understanding specifically of that first and that fourth. And anything that an officer may do procedurally or even criminally incorrect with an arrest, they can be held civilly liable. If you see something that's happening wrong, if you think there's a situation where a police officer may be acting unjustly, you have a First Amendment right. You have a constitutionally upheld right to video report. Just don't interfere with the police investigation. And any police officer that doesn't support, those rights is violating the oath that they swore. You get what I'm saying? But there is a lot of support within the law enforcement community, both from white officers and black officers for citizens. Yeah, if I could get out there right now, I would be protesting with people.
I know you would. That's love.
Because I just want people to love each other, man, and go out there and just be peaceful about it. Just be peaceful about it. Because your message will be heard, in my opinion. There are people out there trying to distract from it, so you got to keep the group strong and focused, when you're out there trying to be heard. Because the only thing that's going to make the news is something got burned down or somebody got hurt or beat up. They're not going to show the images of people locked arm in arm, in unison, supporting that.
Praying for kids that they don't even know.
Exactly. That'll get lost in the truth. So love and love each other and educate yourself.
What about you, Mr. Lehman, to finish it off?
I agree with everything that you guys said. Listen to people, listen to their experiences. If you can't listen to them personally, read stuff. Like Mr. Lenzi said earlier, just watch what you're getting the information from. It can't all be from social media and things like that. And imagine the teacher saying, educate yourself on the issues. I mean, again, I'm a history teacher. Know the history. Know the things that have happened leading up to this. And the other thing I would say is vote.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking necessarily on the national level. Terry, you said it when you did this podcast. You want to start out at the community level, kind of work small and get bigger, man. And it's the same thing with voting. You can't just vote every 4 years.
That's a topic we didn't even get into.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talking earlier about education. School boards are elected. There's so many elected positions locally and statewide that affect you way more than anything on the national level does. And you were asking, what can young people do? That's one thing they can do.
That's step number one. Yeah. Absolutely.
I can't wait for the next one, voting. I can't believe we even touched on voting.
That's all right. We'll talk about it next time.
Yeah, we'll make sure we'll get that in. But to kind of close, man, I wanted to thank each and every single one of you for joining on, man. This wasn't something easy. This could have been uncomfortable, but you guys all feel what I feel. You all feel that we need to do something. And having this conversation, starting it off, getting the ball rolling, I think it's going to be great for the community and even outside of the community. I hope people outside of Westmoreland County can see this and literally copy it.
Yeah.
I love if people just copy this exactly.
Absolutely, and I agree.
Among all communities, because I think that could be just a great, easy place to start.
That's a spark. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Much love to everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
I move in silence, you won't catch me in them headlights. And they love to say they love you if they need some. If they see you moving solid and your bread's right.
Pick up the county, put it down for the town. Everyone I keep around me knew back when I was